He survived bombs, assassins, and years on the run. His government could not even capture him. But in the end, just one phone call gave away his location. This wasn't just an ordinary criminal. This was a man so powerful that his government had to beg him to surrender. And even with that, he negotiated for his own terms before he could surrender. What were the terms that he negotiated for? And how did a man become such powerful to that extent? And how did it all end with just a fatal slip-up on a phone call? Well, stick with me as we navigate through the rise and fall of the biggest drug lord ever in history, Pablo Escobar. Don't forget to link up with AfriGolden for all your event planning and African biddings. To understand how Pablo Escobar became one of the most feared men in history, we need to go back to the beginning. He was born in December 1st, 1945 in Rio Negro, Colombia, and grew up in a nearby town called Envigado. His father was a farmer and his mother was a school teacher. At the early age, Escobar dreamed of becoming a wealthy man. Even as a teenager, he engaged in petty crimes, selling stolen goods and smuggling illegal products. But he wasn't interested in staying small. Then he discovered cocaine. By the 1970s, cocaine was on the high demand in the United States of America. Then Escobar saw an opportunity. He built a network of pilots, smugglers, distributors, and corrupt officials, creating what would become known as the Medellin cartel. Soon, cocaine started flowing in the United States on an enormous scale. Then the cash started pouring in. By the early 1980s, Escobar became one of the richest criminals in the world. At its peak, the Medellin cartel is believed to have earned roughly around $420 million a week. That is roughly $22 billion a year. The money came in so quickly that storing it became a problem. Some had to be stored in warehouses, some had to be buried in undergrounds, and some in secret places across Colombia. Some of his money was reportedly destroyed by moisture and even rats. He spent his money on luxurious homes, luxurious private aircraft, expensive cars, and his famous estate, the Hacienda Naples. The property featured exotic animals, giant dinosaur statues, and even had its own airstrip. But Pablo didn't just want money, he wanted influence. So he built homes for the poor. He built football fields for local communities and funded local projects. This popularity made him to become an alternate member in the Chamber of Representatives in the House of Colombia's parliament. For a time, it seemed he had everything: money, power, and influence. But his empire was built on fear and violence, and sooner or later, his bill would come due. As Escobar's power grew, so did the government's determination to stop him. It reached a point where the government decided to extradite all drug traffickers to the United States. Escobar viewed extradition as a punishment more worse than death. Then he decided to respond with a campaign of terror. He started a bombing campaign across major cities, killing police officers, judges, journalists, politicians, and even the normal civilians. One of the deadliest attacks occurred in 1989 where a bomb destroyed an aircraft, Aviance Flight 203, killing all 107 passengers aboard and 3 people on the ground. This demonstrated how far Pablo Escobar could go to protect his empire. By 1991, pressure from the United States, the Colombian government, and then rival criminal organizations had become overwhelming. Escobar finally decided to surrender, but then on his conditions that he would build his own prison known as La Catedral. The prison featured luxurious living quarters, recreational centers, and breathtaking views. Even the guards of the prisons were handpicked and selected by him. These were prison officers who were very loyal to him. Visitors visited the prison freely as and when they wanted, and even Escobar, whilst in prison, was still running his criminal organization. He was still directing the affairs of the company inside prison and ordering killings. When the government learned of his doings in the prisons, they decided to transfer him to a conventional prison. Before they could do so, Escobar escaped and the hunts began all over. For more than a year, Pablo became a fugitive. The Colombian search blocked and the US intelligence agencies continued to track him in Medellin. The man who once lived in luxurious apartments was now moving from one safe house to another. Then came the single mistake. Escobar grew so desperate to talk to his family. Each day, he could place multiple calls to his son and stayed a bit longer on the phone. Then on December 2nd, 1993, just a day after his 44th birthday, technology caught up with him. Using electronic direction finding equipment, authorities finally pinpointed his location. Within minutes, security forces had surrendered the place. Escobar tried to escape through the roof, but gunfire erupted, and the man who was once viewed as the world's richest and most deadliest criminal had fallen. The rise and fall of Pablo Escobar is depicted in the series Narcos. Have you watched it? And what do you make of Escobar's reign as a drug kingpin? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to like the video and then share for others to also benefit. Also, follow the page across all social media platforms for more insightful and educational content.